fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going in the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to him!
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time once again for our bi-weekly Porsche racing here in the Aussie Online Gaming Porsche Cup Round 7 from Virginia International Raceway, the first endurance race of the season. It's going to be a solo 60-minute endurance race for the drivers out there tonight. And what a brilliant circuit we are at here at Virginia International Raceway, one of the most historic tracks in the United States. To bring it to you all live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, with Nick Skariev next to me in the virtual commentary box. Nick, we love coming to VIR, and certainly it's going to be a fun race here tonight. These drivers are going to be dealing with pit stop strategy, and they'll be racing the track as much as themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me there, Reese. And we will bring up that track map as well. I think around 17 or 18 turns. Very, very technical. Some really iconic corners as well. Mainly like the lights there of the horseshoe at the end of that start-finish straight, as well as the oak tree as well, which is like right up in that corner as well. So yeah, I think it will really kind of separate the field. Not really a track that you kind of sit in. It's more about trying to keep that momentum around the corners.
Indeed, this track was opened in 1957. It's one of the original 3 sports car road courses built in the United States, along with Watkins Glen and Road America, and certainly had an awful lot of history to it. As you can see on the left there, closed from 1974 to 2000. For a time, VIR was one of those lost racetracks, overgrown with trees and cracked tarmac, but it was revived in 2000 on a country club model, which it keeps to this day, and it's now one of the premier racing venues in the United States. Look out for moves into the roller coaster off the end of Madison Avenue, potentially some moves into the Oak Tree corner as well, but as you mentioned, Nick, the horseshoe, one of the prime overtaking places around this track. Going to have to be very careful through Snake and the left hook and then through the S's towards South Bend, though. That's a place where you can run side by side if you're brave enough, but often it's easier said than done.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to have a look at these standings here as well. Altus with such a stranglehold there with Bo Albert there on 1,460 points. A couple of the other Altus cars there. You can see all the way through that top 5 as well. So Job Stewart there in second, Matt Bowler, Cooper Webster, Sebastian Flock, Cameron Dance, Corey Shepard. Then we have Nzomo, the leader of the Pro-Am there in 8th position to Blacklock, Tyson Broad, and then Nicholas Garage there in the leader of the AM. So all the way down to 20th place there, Ryan Jones down there. A great mix of drivers, and it's great to see so many of our drivers progressing through some of those second and third tier ranks.
Yes, indeed. And Nicholas Gariich there in the AM class, certainly the most dominant driver of that subclass so far. Didn't quite have the event that he wanted last round at Interlagos, but still holding on to that championship lead. And you can say the same for most of the drivers here. Interlagos was a bit of a chaotic round, and Race Control have decided to crack down on that a little bit, especially on the first lap. This being an endurance race, the drivers should be very careful out there on the opening laps. And Job Stewart there in second place in the championship. Unfortunately not here tonight, so Bo Albert is given another small free kick here, potentially in his championship lead. And no surprise to see that Albert is topping the timesheets in practice by 5/10 over his teammate Sam Blacklock. The drivers are just in the pits at the moment waiting for the briefing. By the time that is done, we will get into the qualifying session. So, we're already going to a replay thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School, and I saw this happen as we were going into the championship standings. Matthew Bowler having a bit of an adventure off the track and getting into the wall. Watch this. He gets hit and gets sent absolutely sky high. Hopefully we don't see any incidents like that in the race.
Yeah, I get sick just looking at it there, but not only did a massive pirouette there on the track, but yeah, quite a lot of back and forward flips there to boot as well.
Well, it looks like the only three cars out there are Sam Blacklock, who's just there on the right of your screen crossing the start-finish line. Matthew Bowler out there as well. Bailey Frid almost making an exit to the pit lane. Joshua Van Treek is out there as well. And Kyle Booth too, getting their final few laps of preparation in before we go into qualifying. Now, in all previous rounds of this series, we have had split qualifying. Usually, the AMs and half of the Pro-Am field go out together, and then after the first 15 minutes or so, you get the rest of the Pro-Ams out with the Pro-Class drivers. But here at VIR, everyone is going to be on track at the same time in qualifying, and I think it makes sense to go for a decision like that. Single 20-minute qualifying session means that we don't have to spend much time twiddling our thumbs waiting for the groups to work themselves out. It also works with the slightly smaller grid we've had in the last few rounds. Currently there's 19 drivers in the Porsche 992 Cup cars, plus our two Race Control cars, the McLaren 570S GT4s with Dan Yeaman and Tom Wilkinson from Aussie Online Gaming and Drop Air Motorsports running this series. But on board here with Blacklock down Madison Avenue, this is a prime slipstreaming opportunity here, coming over the rise, and the straight meanders just a little bit. Got to be careful to try and pick your line here into roller coaster, and the track, well, it doesn't really narrow up per se, but the line certainly does. And the run here into Hog Pen, you have to negotiate this chicane just right. Not only do you have to negotiate those very narrow curbs, but there's some very severe dips in the elevation change of the racetrack, which in a car like the Porsche 911, being rear-engine, rear-wheel drive, it's especially difficult to keep up the momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can see, this so heavy on the brakes there. It almost feels like the horseshoe goes on forever, like a real double apex. See, they come back through, I think called NASCAR bend there into left hook, so where the track does tighten up a bit. So much really rotation here. Will be one thing to watch. Potentially tire degradation there. It is a that 60-minute mini enduro race there as well. Gee, doesn't look great. Just slipping and sliding all the way through those S's there, and you can see them work their way all the way up to turns 11 and 12 to the oak tree. Lots of changing of direction there with the Porsche as well. So I think the first lap would be really one to keep an eye on as well. Oh, it's almost too... Spoke to earlier there, massive slide there by Sam Blacklock. But yeah, these rear-engine Porsches, change of direction can unsettle them quite easily.
As can going onto the grass, as just demonstrated there by Mr. Blacklock. Just up ahead of him, this car here, the 727 of Benjamin Johnson, having a bit of trouble getting out of the oak tree. But last few seconds of the practice session have concluded. and we'll get the session ticked over so we can get into this 20-minute qualifying session. Who will take pole position? Well, considering the practice times, I'd be surprised if anyone but Bo Albert starts on the top position of the grid, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he'll be one, if practice or even the season's anything to go by, he'll be one to watch, but Virginia in particular is quite a narrow track there, so things can go wrong if you get stuck behind a car and not be able to get through. Can be a bit dire there, so we're just seeing a few cars just warming up their tyres and getting out of the pits, so it'll be a little bit of an outlap coming around, and then we'll start to see those times up on the board.
Yeah, it's a long lap here at VIR. This track is 5.2 kilometers long, which is quite a long length for any racetrack. It's almost Formula One level, the length of this circuit. But here in the Porsche, you get around this track in about 12 seconds shy of 2 minutes. So there's plenty of time to get yourself started, but Dylan Shepard already experiencing an issue or two there, trying to gear up for his lap. Fortunately, he's kept it out of the tyre barriers, has the number 43. Since he started racing in this series, he's had some pretty good runs there in the Pro-Am class. Certainly got the pace to get himself up there, but needs to iron out those little mistakes there. So let's hope that Shepard will be able to get it done. Tyson Broad, he's fighting with Simon Mazzomo for the Pro-Am Championship class lead, and now gearing up for his first hot lap. He's going to be the first driver to start a lap here, and Mazzomo will certainly be watching his competitor with great interest as he goes around to begin this hot lap. Let's go for the run here around Virginia International Raceway. Past the tree to start the lap, and then you slow all the way down into the horseshoe. Almost the slowest corner on the track, and unfortunately Broad's gone straight off. Big lock up there coming into the corner, but Blacklock, on the other hand, continuing his lap, coming up to NASCAR Bend, keeping it nice and stable. You want to get a banker in, I would suppose, at the start of this session. Unlike previous races, there is not a hard cut to the end of qualifying because we're not using the heat format here, this being just a single race.
Yeah, absolutely there. But we're just seeing Sam Blacklock come through like we did in the warm-up a little bit early. You could just see teammate Albert there a little bit further back, so we're expecting quite a lot from these two. So awesome seeing these Porsches come around, especially on the cold tyres. You can see them twitching and fighting for grip as well. And so much of the elevation change Virginia has really been known for. Really slow part of the track there, and it's really heavy on the accelerator now, so they come up to Madison Avenue corner there. They take it straight through. A little bit of a back kink here called the roller coaster, so it's heavy on the brakes.
Looks
Great
like
technical little circuit there, Reese.
Yeah, that's very technical, and that's why so many drivers love it, including our broadcast director, Jay Kennedy, who's making everything happen behind the scenes. Blacklock doesn't seem to be pushing too hard here on this lap. I think what the Altus cars are going for here is perhaps a run of 2, maybe 3 hot laps, because the tyres do take a bit of time to come up to temperature in these Porsches. Yeah, 1 minute 51 there for Blacklock to start things off. That is way off the pace of what we've seen, as there's a bit of trouble for Bailey Fred. Obviously his tyres are not to his liking. That's a very heavy hit to the back of the car, and he's going to have to head on back to the pits and get a new car. Meanwhile, faster times are starting to come in. Drivers pushing on their first lap, unlike the Altus duo, include Matthew Bowler and AM Championship leader Nicholas Gariich. Sebastian Flock slots himself into second place as Cameron Dance here is coming up to the end of a lap. Through the hog pen he comes, and it's amazing to see the car bouncing around as they make their way through that final corner. Let's see what this lap ends up being like then for Cameron Dance, who's had a bit of a patchy season. He'll be wanting more success. 2 minute 5 seconds, that is a banker, that is a warm-up lap second warm-up lap, I should say, for his proper attempt at a hot lap, but doesn't seem like he was taking a very wide line into the horseshoe, so we'll probably expect a little bit more out of him. Bo Albert, meanwhile, championship leader, P1 in practice, and the favourite for pole position. Looked like a pretty good exit there out of the oak tree corner. Let's see how he does through the final sector, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just see how hard they accelerate there out of the oak tree corner, going all the way down there. But yeah, you'd have to say some pretty unfortunate for Dance there on definitely a season of what could have been Cameron Dance. So adaptive to all these different series that he really tries his hand to, whether it be all the way from this to sprint car racing. He's really just has such that flexibility, as seen in his really good efforts there in the Majors series as well. So great to see him out here in the Porsche. Bo Albert definitely more has that focus around the circuit racing as well as the rallycross as well. So also pretty adaptive there. Dylan Shepard currently there in fourth place, about a second and a bit there off the pace there. Job Stewart are expecting a pretty fast lap.
Oh, Job Stewart is here after all. My apologies. Looks to me like he actually joined the session very late, so we were figuring Job Stewart might not be here tonight, but turns out he is going to take the fight to Bo Albert here. Let's see what he can do then, and his initial outlap looked good. We see him working his way through this infield complex, and this is going to be a very difficult turn to get right. You want to try and widen the entry to right hook as much as you possibly can and try and go as close to flat out as possible through this initial section of the S's. It looked pretty planted there for the Pursuit Sim Racing number 35, and then coming up to the S's proper, this is an incredible sequence of corners. You go up and over the hill, hitting the apex, flat out, maybe a little lift here into the right-hander, try to scrub off a bit of speed, and then dive down through South Bend. Take it easy on the run up to Oak Tree. Very easy to lock the brakes into this corner, so let's see what he can do into Oak Trees. Kept it nice and stable, maybe overran the exit just a little bit. He might not be too happy with how he exited the corner there, going just a little bit deep, but this is still looking like a pretty fast lap from Job Stewart.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to say Job, such a strong and competitive driver as well, so we did see that was an outlap, just joining the server a little bit late there. You can see how much the car gets unsettled there under the brakes. It's pretty amazing watching these Porsches go around at an awesome noise as well as they accelerate pretty hard all the way through. Hopefully, I think this is going to be a bit of a cracking lap there. It seemed to be sitting well, pretty well planted there, not really sliding out too much though. 147.8, so that does put him, I think, around that third, actually no, all the way down in sixth place.
So not quite what Job Stewart would want to start things off in the qualifying session, but if he sticks with this second hot lap, the tyres will be further up to temperature and he'll be able to get a little bit more pace out of it. Here's Kyle Booth, meanwhile, in the AM class, teammate to championship leader Nicholas Gariich. 49.3 is the time that he has at the moment. P12 in the qualifying session. Let's see what he can do as he comes up to the final twisting section of this lap. Nice and stable under the brakes, over the crest. Oh, it doesn't quite hook up the inside of the curb, but keeping the car nice and stable, which is good to see. Actually, it looks like he might have backed off here. He's probably gearing up for another hot lap. Let's see what he does here. Does he bring it into the pits? No, he's going to continue committing, but we're coming up to the halfway point of the session now, Nick. This is when the drivers really need to start getting their bankers in. It's an improvement for Booth, though. He gains 2 places into the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, tyre temperatures going up. Laps coming down. There's that Kerr also in the pursuit car as well. Oh, you just saw that little bit of a wiggle come out. A little bit too hard on the accelerator there, potentially. Such a cool paint scheme as well, the Pursuit Sim Racing. I'm a stickler for a good lick of paint. Plunges down the hill there as well. You can see, even a little bit of a slide coming into the corner as well. So, yeah, might still be a fast one though. Yeah, maybe a little bit messier than what he was hoping for. But it just shows how the suspension is. This is a setup race there, so a lot of these teams run their own setup. So Zach Kerr choosing to come into the pits though.
Well, it's good to practice pit entry. The drivers are going to have to make at least one pit stop here tonight. We're expecting everyone just the one stop to get to the end. There is a fuel tank restriction as well, which is going to force that stop. As Dylan Shepard remains P6, didn't quite touch the time that he set before. Going to go to a virtual racing school replay here of the number 73 of Zach Kerr, who's currently running in 8th place. We'll get another look at what happened to him. Let's yeah, it actually looked like there wasn't it looked worse on board than it did from the outside. Not too much of a problem there getting onto the straight. It was really at the end of the straight where it was a problem for him. The Altus duo, meanwhile, of Albert and Blacklock, they are the top two in the qualifying session at the moment, and Blacklock giving his teammate a nice slipstream here to see if they can improve on their lap times. Albert currently holds on to that P1. Oh dear, that was a big oversteer moment there. Who are we looking at? That's Zach Kerr, actually. So we'll see what this slide looked like from his perspective. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that really broke traction. Yeah, interesting point there. It didn't look like it was that big of a slide from looking outside the car, but hey, these drivers are certainly working hard in these Porsches. They don't have traction control. They don't have anti-lock brakes. So none of those cushions there to work with as Stewart's coming up to the end of a lap now. Can he improve on that 47.3? Yes, he can. 47.298. So he's into P3 now with those improved times, but still a little bit off Bo Albert's pace. Albert has really got that Altus car dialed in. Let's check out Ben Johnson then. As Bailey Frid goes to P6, that's a good improvement for that member of Pursuit Sim Racing. But the Bort Sim Sports 727, who we saw having a couple of adventures in the grass in the practice session, can he improve on a 48.5? Oh, no, he can't. Oh, dear.
Absolutely, yeah, there, and almost blocking pit lane there in the process. So he's had to escape out of it, though. We did see Matt Bowler come through, but I know, as we were just alluding to before there, absolutely there, Sam Blacklock in the Altus car. These two are just cruising around the circuit, absolutely nailing in these laps, lap after lap here at the moment, and just so competitive there. It's not really a draft that Sam Blacklock's getting there, but it's absolutely helped him close a gap there. So that's put him within about 0.3 of Albert. Albert there running a little bit wide, so I think that will be his run done now. We do have about 7 minutes left on the board.
We do. Bailey Frid now for Pursuit Sim Racing. Car number 5 currently in 8th place in qualifying. We've seen a couple of improvements get in there. Matthew Bowler, who seems to be very strong in this series and one of the leaders of Pursuit Sim Racing in the AOG Porsche Cup, going to P3. And another Pursuit driver, Sebastian Flock, going to P5. Sebastian Flock and Cameron Dance next to each other on the timesheets, and often next to each other in the races is how you usually see them. So it's going to be an interesting battle to see here across the 60-minute race. But Frid, going up to the end of a lap now, can he improve on that 47.7 and 8th place? Yes, he can. He actually pips Dylan Shepard there to 7th. So not too bad a run there from Frid. Now has a 10th over his nearest competitor. He's going to, wow, man, it's very close between he and Cameron Dance. It's actually going to be quite close. Only 4 thousandths separating them. Joshua Van Treek, let's see what he can do here. Currently in 14th.
Yeah, absolutely. So do see Joshua there from Crispy Motorsports. So great to see them out as well. We're getting a really good range of teams at the moment there. Just off screen as well, I know Sam Blacklock is on a couple of purple sectors at the moment, so possibly may even be able to knock Albert off that top step. Still currently sitting in second though. Joshua coming through 148.5. That is a, well, not, it is an improvement ever so slightly. So up in 14th place there. I might just have a look and see how Sam is going there at the moment. These two have just absolutely been so dominant so far. It does look like it's an aborted lap, so 5 minutes left on the clock there, Reese.
Well, there's still time for the drivers to get a couple of extra runs here. Cameron Dance being one of them, and only 600s, actually closer to 500s. He needs to improve by, but that's not going to happen on that lap. That is a big mistake there for Cameron Dance. The rear end swung out, got away from him. He tried to correct it, and the rear end of these Porsches with that flat six engine just past the rear axle makes the rear end act like a pendulum if you don't correct it right. Cameron Dance finding that out the hard way once again. It's a big shame there for Cam. We might see him out for one more run here in this session, but it's going to be difficult. Here's how it looked from the outside, just catching the curb, and oh man, he went for that turn in, but the car wasn't quite ready to give him the grip he needed.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just see how, with the stiff suspension there of the Porsches, how hard they're hitting these curbs as well. And Virginia does have, they are raised ever so slightly, so it can have it come unstuck there. Nicholas Garage there from the Garage Booth Motorsport team, coming down the back of the circuit there. As we see through the roller coaster, you can see the really big, almost understeer. He is actually on a pretty fast lap here at the moment, so could see him go hopefully a couple of positions higher there. Oh, understeer again. So he's asking a lot of those front tyres, so we will see as they come over the line.
Oh, yeah, just a little improvement there for Nicholas Garriott. Actually, unfortunately, that's off his fastest lap by about 0.5 of a second. So it's only going to be a couple of chances left here for Garriott. Well, he and his teammate Booth lead the AM standings. They've got 3 Pro-Am drivers between themselves and Javin Wood in P16. Here comes Sebastian Flock to begin another lap, coming to the end of a hot lap, in fact. But 48.869, that's a bit off what he has set by about 0.3 of a second. He's going to remain P5 for the time being, and ever so slightly wide of the apex of the horseshoe. Probably not the start to the lap that he would have wanted. If he can make it around, just back off on this one, he'll be able to get another lap in by crossing the start-finish line before the timer hits 0. It is looking nice and smooth, though. Let's see if he commits to this.
Yeah, you can just see how much finesse there is in that steering input as they come through. The cool part of the circuit there, the snake section into turn 7, 8, and 9 here, which are a little bit more open. Makes it very tricky, though. For a qualifying lap, it's not so bad, but yeah, when you're bunched up together, oh, that was pretty certain that was a big slide there coming over the hill. Might even, if we can cut to a replay of that a little bit later on there, you can actually see quite a lot of them there seem to be having a bit of understeering, maybe on some of those slower corners, but Sebastian Flock, even if it doesn't work out though, top 5 position, not too bad. Don't forget we do have 60 minutes of racing, so a lot can happen in that time.
Well, let's see how he goes here through roller coaster. Got Bo Albert up ahead of him there, who might be on the way to improving on his current pole position time. Flock keeping it nice and stable over the curbs. Didn't quite use all of the track on the exit. We'll see if he can get himself an improvement on a 48.528. Coming up to the start-finish line, yes, that's going to be an improvement. 47.1, that puts him into P3. Excellent job there from Sebastian Flock.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think almost that's going to be done though, but they all will get, as we were just saying before there's an extra lap there. Does look like, sorry, it almost looked like Sam had rolled out of that last corner, but actually is holding it pinned. See if he can respond.
Gearing up for a final hot lap, I think, as Job Stewart just pipped his teammate Sebastian Flock to P3, a further improvement from the 35. 1 minute 47.016 for Job Stewart, and that's going to be the end of his qualifying. He'll certainly be happy with that one. Well, we're going to stick here. It actually looks like Blacklock has backed off. That's going to be the end of his qualifying run. He's pretty sure that he has second place secured, so he doesn't need to push too hard. Meanwhile, a couple of purple sectors here for Bo Albert. We'll see what he can do coming up to the end of the lap. Hopefully there's no mistakes here from the championship leader. Blue wing mirrors, blue bumper, blue wheels as the checkered flag flies. Let's see if he can make his competitors black and blue here tonight. Bo Albert just trying to get the car turned in, a little bit of understeer coming into the roller coaster. Is this going to be a scrappy end to the lap for Bo? Uses the curbs very nicely through Hogpen, a little bit of trail braking to get it rotated, and that's a nice line out, but he doesn't need to improve. He's going to practice pit entry there to end off his run. Good stuff there from Bo. Well, a couple more drivers here on laps. Matthew Bowler, let's see what he can do. Missed out on P3 thanks to Job Stewart and Sebastian Flock, but it's still a good result here for Pursuit Sim Racing coming up. They have the last 3 positions in the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. So good run there by Pursuit. See Matt Bowler there coming through the back part of the circuit. Oh, almost I think that was Sam Blacklock that he just went past there, who had pulled out and is escaping back to the pit side. But Matt Bowler choosing to... Oh,
whoop.
Yeah. Massive slide. So that is going to be his lap done. It's going to take a bit of a shortcut. Oh.
Yeah, okay, that hasn't worked out for him, and there's a wall in his way as well. You're not going to make it over that, Matthew. I think you're just going to have to try and find your way through this little gap here. Remember that iRacing laser scans their tracks, and that includes those big expanses of grass outside the circuit, so that bump is there in real life. That's the main reason why you don't see drivers out there. Bailey Frid coming up to the end of a lap now. Will he commit to this? No, he will not. Practice pit entry for him, and with that, that's all the drivers off the circuit, which means we can go through the grid here for the first endurance race of the season at Virginia International Raceway. It's an Altus Esports front row lockout with Bo Albert and Sam Blacklock. Job Stewart, Sebastian Flock and Matt Bowler put their Pursuits cars 3rd, 4th and 5th. Cameron Dance rounds out the top 6 for TechSense Fitstein Motorsports. Bailey Frid is going to start in 7th place with Dylan Shepard alongside him, Zach Kerr and Tyson Broad 9th and 10th, and then it is a Booth Garriott Motorsports 1-2 with Booth and Garriott rounding out the top 12.
Yeah, absolutely. There, Ben Johnson there, Joshua Van Treek we saw before, Alex John. We actually didn't see too much of Alex John out in qualifying, but he was out there chipping away. Javon Wood, Tyson Hanmer, and Zach Mitchell there on row 9. Could be Isaac Edwards there being our last car. So great run by everyone. So it should be a real cracking 60 minutes.
Yep, Nathan Anderson did not take part in qualifying. It'd be interesting to see if he gets onto the grid here. But not that long to go now until the drivers go for their standing start on the way down to the horseshoe. Brief bit of strategy discussion here. The drivers are expecting that they'll only take 1 pit stop, and the tank with the fuel restriction gives you 22 to 23 laps depending on your fuel saving. So the expected race length is 34 laps. Therefore, the critical lap is lap 12. That is the earliest you can pit, and be sure to get home on fuel. If you're on the low side of the fuel burn, then you might be able to pit on lap 11 and get away with it. Well, we'll see what the drivers can do here, especially if there are draft trains forming in the midfield. We should see drivers doing a little bit of lift and coast there, perhaps to stretch their final stint out. But it's going to be advantage Altus Esports here on the front row. They'll be hoping that they've got their clutch bite points sorted so they can absolutely nail this standing start. They've got a competitor in the Porsche Esports Super Cup in the form of Jordan Caruso and their former teammate Cooper Webster driving for Red Bull Esports. So they certainly have the data that they need to work this out. Revs rise, and the green flag drops. Away we go. It's a good start from the Altus duo, but an excellent start there from Sebastian Flock. He's already overtaken Job Stewart to get into 3rd, and he's challenging for 2nd on the outside of Sam Blacklock. Very late on the brakes for Job Stewart. A huge dive up the inside, makes contact, goes deep, and already off the circuit. He's got to be careful with the re-entry. Looks like he's just managed to sort himself out there. So it's an Altus Esports breakaway. Cameron Dance has made it up into third in all of that kerfuffle. An excellent start there for the number 6 as they come into the left and right hook for the first time. Excellent start from that top 2, and they are streaking away now at the front of the field. Everyone just trying to make their way through the snake as cleanly as possible. One of the big losses there on the first lap for Job Stewart. He's down 13 places into 16th as there's already some big challenges for position up towards the front of the field.
Yeah, absolutely there. So did very well there trying to pick a gap re-entering the track again. So very, very fortunate there not to smack into anyone. You can actually see those cold tyres there, a little bit understeer. You can see there from the Texans pit start car there of Cameron Dance. Actually seeing Tyson Hanma started in 17th, unfortunately, in 19th position there, having a bit of an off as well. But you can see that car 73 there already cutting their way through the field there. So Pursuit Sim Racing trying to get around. It's such a tight part of the circuit, unfortunately. It's not something that can really drag race out there. It all really comes down to these braking zones.
Yeah, that was Tyson Broad. He's doing a bit of carving himself. He's up 2 positions now and made the move on Zach Kerr down the back straight around Madison Avenue. So into the first lap, we'll go to a replay here thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School. We'll see what happened here to Job Stewart. It looks like there was further issues for him here. And, oh no, actually, this is what happened to Tyson Hanma. Job Stewart going up the inside and then a big lock-up for Hanma. And all he could find was the grass on the way up to Oak Tree. Well, back to the battle here for 8th. Tyson Broad followed by Zach Kerr. They got Nicholas Garriott behind them. He's made up 2 places, made his way past his teammate Kyle Booth.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you can just see just smacking those curbs there, and thankfully didn't unsettle the car. It is a slow part of the circuit. Oh, I actually just saw, I think that was a overtake there.
Yeah.
From the car of 369 there. Job Stewart all over the back though.
Oh, easy.
Yeah,
Goodness.
Yeah, just trying to make his own part of the circuit there through the grass, but you'll have to slot in behind there. Oh, almost side by side is off again as well.
Oh, Job, be careful of the entry. Oh, goodness. Job Stewart is having a wild ride here tonight. This is the opposite of what he wanted here at VIR. Second in the championship. He can't afford to have this sort of stuff happen to him this early on. At this rate, he'll be hoping that there's a safety car to bring the field back together, and there are manual safety cars in this league. The AOG crew will bring their McLarens out onto the circuit if there's a big enough incident, but as things stand, it seems that that's not going to happen. There haven't been that big incidents out there on track. Here's Dylan Shepard chasing down Bailey Frid for 7th place as I saw Kyle Booth running down the order, and that is a mistake there through the roller coaster.
Yeah, so it seems to be a bit of battle of attrition between a few of the drivers. We've all seen a few of them head out. Thankfully, with Virginia, the fences are actually quite far off the circuit, I suppose, with the motorcycle racing that they have here as well. So just a lot of grass, so not really much in the way to slow you down there, but all the way crossed up there for that car 110. So
goodness. There's so many replays that we have to go to because stuff just keeps happening out on track here. Have a look at Tyson Broad. This is an overshoot of the horseshoe at the start of the lap. Getting on the brakes, and is this a lock-up? Didn't seem much of a lock-up there, but still, he was a bit deep on the brakes, and he's had to take a trip through the grass himself. Same can be said for Javin Wood and Isaac Edwards. Wood is facing some issues as well. Let's see what happened to Nicholas Garriott. There's a problem for Sebastian Flock. We're actually, there we go. There's Sebastian Flock losing a couple of places there and back into 5th. What on earth has gone on for him there?
Yeah, it might actually, talking about replays, might have to cut to one of that as well. Yeah, it just seems to be a bit of an issue there. You can see these I think it's about a group of 6 there at the moment, all sticking together. We are on this VRS replay now. You can see him sitting in there pretty comfortably behind Dance. Not too much of a change there at the moment.
Wait till the end of this S's section, though, Nick. You'll see.
Yeah, you can just see how much they changed direction, and right here as well, just running a bit wide there, right up into the grass. So, but thankfully recovering, had a much better recovery than Job Stewart did a couple of laps ago.
Well, on the attack is Matthew Bowler on Cameron Dance, towing Sebastian Flock along with him. Tell you what, Matthew Bowler's form has just gone up dramatically here in the Porsche in this season of AOG. He's gotten some excellent results in the last few rounds, getting on the podium a few times, and he's looking at the same here. Cameron Dance, he made some good moves on the first lap in the number 6 to try and get himself on with a podium position to try and get his championship run back on track. But he is under an immense amount of pressure here from 4 cars. It's the pursuit trio of Bowler, Flock and Frid, and then they got Dylan Shepard behind them there in the Bob Jane T-Mart's number 43. Let's see if any of them make a mistake here. Coming up to South Bend, this is where Flock had his issue last lap. Looks like they all get through there cleanly, but it's so hard to get right. If you even get the line wrong a few corners before, you're pretty much doomed. Let's see what the exit's like from Oak Tree for these guys. The Oak Tree, unfortunately, fallen down a few years ago in real life. There's no tree at that corner now, but iRacing preserving it indefinitely. It's a good slipstream from Matthew Bowler. He's going to try and go here into roller coaster on Cameron Dance. Dance is going to have the inside for the corner proper, but straighter line into the corner for Bowler. He's just going to get ahead. Dance trying his best to harass the back of the pursuit number 12, but Matthew Bowler now up into the podium positions. It was a pretty good move.
Yeah, great threading of the needle there by Matthew Bowler. We'll see if Cameron Dance might respond, but just sitting in behind. So you can see that front straight here for Virginia is not super fast, so he's not really able to get past through, but he is choosing to hold that really outside line, which is interesting line there around Oak Tree. Maybe if you can try and get an over-under.
Just at the back of this pack, Shepard and Frid made a little bit of contact coming into the horseshoe. It looks like they've sorted themselves out, though, so all fine. No harm, no foul. Just a little tap, but Dylan Shepard is starting to make some claims here to a top 5 position. We'll see how well he can go here. Frid is just holding on to the back now of his teammate Sebastian Flock. Now that Cameron Dance has been passed by Matthew Bowler, Flock will see an opportunity here. He just needs to be careful through this section of the circuit. Try not to get too airborne over the curbs because there's no grip when your tyres are in the air, funnily enough. But he does work it out nicely. Albert and Blacklock, though, they are absolutely steaming away at the front of the field. They hold on to this gap here by about 5, maybe 6 seconds over this pack for third.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see those times there up the side, so all in so close. So you can see that gap there between Dance and Flock, only about 3/10. So you could almost put a move on. We'll call it close enough there as well. Bailey Frid. Sorry, just off the side of the screen there is
the pass side by side.
Yeah,
Shepard. He's going to get it up the inside, but make contact, and Frid goes off the circuit.
Yeah, we did see Frid there a couple of corners ago go a bit wide, which kind of opened up the door. Maybe this might be the chance to... Actually, no, we can't, because they do have this fuel cap limit there, so probably a bit earlier there to head in the pits. Same with the tyre degradation as well, but we are looking at this VRS replay. You can see... Yeah.
It was a good initial move from Bo Albert, but unfortunately not able to complete it in time for Hogpen, and this is really a one-line corner with the elevation change. There was a lot of understeer there for the 43 and just going into the side of Frid.
Yeah, bounced off, so very unfortunate for them. So we'll see if there's a penalty handed out there. We are looking a little bit further back at some of our Pro-Am cars here as well. That is the battle for night there at the moment. The Job Stewart just out of shot as well, so hasn't really been able to pull back the time that he lost a little bit earlier on, so potential championship implications there. I think he was sitting around second, as he might have mentioned before.
Indeed. Stewart trying his best to make up positions after his adventures in the first couple of laps, but we look at the 727 of Benjamin Johnson. He's chasing down Tyson Broad, who is another driver we saw having a little off just before, and Bailey Frid getting back onto the circuit just behind these guys. Last position in the top 10 for Benjamin Johnson. We'll see if he can hold on to it. He's kept it nice and clean. He's made up 3 places. And is the second biggest mover in the field. Nicholas Garriott, up in 8th, just ahead of these guys, has made up 4 places. So it's been a very strong run here for the number 66. And, oh dear, Zach Kerr. I thought I saw a little puff of gravel, and that was Kerr going off the circuit at the exit of Hogpen, and he's fallen back down to 12th.
Yeah, so unfortunate for him there as well. Well, you can see, I think that might have been, that is Bailey Frid through. And then the other pursuit car as well, so it's a bit of a pursuit team sandwich there. Almost collected the bat. It's actually lost him a little bit of time there for that car 35. So plenty of action in the middle of the field here at the moment. On board with Job Stewart, that car 35. Trying to line up, you can see just how over the back there of that car in front.
Zach Mitchell for Drop Bear Motorsports is in the pit lane, and this is a little bit early to see drivers coming into the pits. He'll have to make a second stop. Interesting to see what brought about that decision, but looks like he's been in the pits for some time here. Over 30 seconds now, so there's obviously big problems there for Zach Mitchell, and we have had one loss in the form of Javin Wood, as there goes Sebastian Flock. He's caught up to Cameron Dance and has passed him in the slipstream down Madison Avenue. He gets it done nicely before they even get to the braking zone. We're going to have another look here at what happened to the 369 of Javin Wood, and he just ran off the racetrack and very heavy contact with the Armco barrier. Apparently there is more. Is this the re-entry that was a problem for Javin Wood? Tries his best to get back up to speed. Well, yeah, but the car is broken. So unfortunately, that's head-on into the next Armco barrier for Javin Wood. Very unfortunate. He will retire from this race. So Flock has made the move on Cameron Dance. Dylan Shepard now in tow, but there is a penalty incoming here for Dylan Shepard, a 10-second time penalty, and that was for the contact with Bailey Frid, failing to leave racing room on lap 5. The battle still goes on here between Tyson Broad and Zach Kerr. Kerr trying his best to recover from his excursion off the racetrack earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. So not too surprising there to see that penalty come through. You can see just how much he drifted offline after collecting that curb, though. But see these two fighting it out here at the moment. So great defense there by, I think that is car 27. So almost all 4 wheels off the ground as they came out of that curb. It is an exciting track there, Virginia. I think every time I think of Virginia, I always think of Max Bance, where they had they ran the 2 pit lanes.
Ah, yes. Look at
You
this.
could say it like that.
I remember slow-mo there of the 27 of Tyson Broad going deep into the horseshoe and losing a further position there. That's how Broad ended up in the position he is now, that you can see on screen. Well, coming down to the 45-minute mark, we have completed just about 8 laps of the race. In fact, we have completed 8 laps of the race now, with Bo Albert in the lead, dragging Sam Blacklock along with him. But the battle for 4th continues on. Cameron Dance has not allowed Sebastian Flock to get away from him. Matthew Bowler has gotten some good times in. You can see that there's quite a gap there. And, oh no, the 727 of Benjamin Johnson. That's unfortunate for him, as Garriott brings it into the lane with heavy damage. Has there been a big incident out there, I wonder? Looks like Tyson Broad is in the pits as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing quite a lot of cars come in there. Gee, you can see that damage there on the front of that car 66. We're actually having a look at the VRS replay here. Oh, just dropping a little bit.
Oh, dear. Oh my goodness, that is huge. 4 cars involved in that incident.
Yeah, I was hoping, yeah, we spun off to the inside of the circuit. I was like, gee, I hope he doesn't collect the cars coming through those. But it's even blown the field out even more, really. Possibly might even see, by the end of this race, a few cars getting lapped as well. Because we're seeing a few, I think we've already seen cars 17, 18 and 19 all being lapped at some stage. You can see Johnson there about a minute behind these leaders. So a lot happening here at the moment, though. But gee, Albert and Blacklock just dominating there at the moment. About 3/10 separating these two.
Yeah, flying in formation is Altus Esports. They are untroubled by anything that's been going on this racetrack, and it certainly has been a dramatic race if you're not one of these two. We're coming up now to start lap 10, so if these guys have been looking to fuel save a bit in the final stint, they will certainly have the gap to do so. It's been a nice controlled race from the Altus duo. So as a result of the incident that we just saw, Tyson Broad and Benjamin Johnson have used one of their 2 fast repairs. Zach Kerr has also used a fast repair there. Looks like a change for position for 7th. Meanwhile, I was just looking at my live timing. Job Stewart continuing to make up places. He's just gotten past his teammate Bailey Frid. So Job still has plenty of time to try and work his way into the top 5 here, but it's going to be hard unless there's a safety car.
Yeah, absolutely. You could almost think that that incident before, though, but all those cars managing to get underway, so safety car not required there at the moment. You'd have to say, though, it would be a safety car would absolutely play in the hands of Job Stewart, who's currently in 7th, but about 10 seconds behind Dylan Shepard. Unsure if Shepard has actually served, well, I'd actually say that he hasn't served his penalty there at the moment, so he's going to drop out from behind of Cam Dance, so we'll see him come into the pits highly likely on this lap. Just through on race control there at the moment, though, so no further penalty there on Nicholas Garrich there, who unfortunately was reviewed as an unsafe rejoin, but was well and truly out of control, so there's not much that he could have really done about that. It was just a bit unfortunate for those cars around him, so we'll see Shepard coming through. Still about half a second there from Dance. We'll see. Still staying out there on circuit, so potentially maybe it might be that next lap that penalty gets served.
Well, I don't think there's any point to him really serving it, because it's a 10-second time penalty. It's going to be added onto his time at the end of the race.
Absolutely. Sorry, Reese. Yeah, you're right.
All good, all good. It just means that Shepard, despite fighting with these guys, is not going to have a chance at a top 5 place at the very end. These guys have closed up, though, as Bowler continues to just keep it nice and clean with that nice gap over Sebastian Flock. Dance is still keeping in touch with the number 84. And Shepard, well, he's running in 6th. So if we apply his 10-second time penalty now, that should put him in 8th place behind Bailey Frid, provided everything stays the same to the end of the race, which it's pretty much guaranteed it won't.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just see these 3 sitting in nice and tight there at the moment. Cutting to one of the pursuit cars there, that is Job Stewart in behind. So you can actually see, I think it was about 9.5 seconds there, only a lap or so ago though. So you can see Job Stewart there, almost a second a lap faster here at the moment. So we'll see that well and truly close down.
We've had a bit of a further comment from Race Control about that no further action on Nicholas Garrich's incident. He tried to stop, but the brakes were ineffective on the grass. The other cars took turn 17 normally. They were unable to respond in time, and that's completely understandable. If I was in the position of one of those drivers and I saw a car on the grass coming back onto the racetrack at that place, then wouldn't be able to do much about it. As Cameron Dance is starting to put some pressure on Sebastian Flock here for 4th place. Will he be able to get the move done? Dance is pretty strong here when it comes to long runs in these cars, and it looks like Sebastian Flock is just starting to show a few gaps in his armour that Dance might be able to exploit. But the exit from the snake for Flock is superior to that of Dance, so Cameron's going to have to wait potentially for a slipstream down Madison Avenue into the roller coaster. Much straighter line though than Sebastian Flock, and this is the point where Flock had his incident earlier. He does run a little bit wide and over the curb onto the grass. This is going to put him on the defensive here. Can Dance cut up the inside at Oak Tree? You would think that he wouldn't do that because, oh, hang on a minute, he's not going to be able to do anything at Oak Tree because there goes Dylan Shepard diving up the inside. Will Dance be able to get him back at roller coaster? It looks like a reasonable slipstream for the number 6. Is he going to get back by? No. Looks like he might just stay behind here coming into the roller coaster. But Dance will know that Shepard has a 10-second time penalty hanging over his head, and he'll want to get back by him as soon as possible.
Yeah, it'd be more to factor in though with Job Stewart in behind these two. Oh, super wide. That might actually, you'd almost think that Cameron Dance would have had to roll out of that. We might try and see if we can grab that time difference for Job Stewart in behind, so that actually is still sitting in. Trying to do the maths in my head. Or about 8 seconds or so back. So Job not really advancing on that lap there, so it would be a pretty big effort to close down. It's a gap like that. We do know that some of these drivers have been fuel saving. I think Cam Dance might be rolling off the throttle here and there. If he can actually sit in behind, he might actually be able to work it out into his advantage, save a little bit of time in the pit lane.
Yeah, that's the main goal of fuel saving, especially when it's a guaranteed one-stop race like this one. If you can afford to save a few millilitres a lap, then that will work out to a gain of about a second, you would say, in the actual pit stop cycle. So Cameron certainly playing the long game here as he tries his best to nail the entry into Oak Tree and does not. Runs very wide on the exit, but at the same time that's going to give him a little more space to execute the slipstream on Dylan Shepard and save a bit more fuel at the end of the straight. Job Stewart, as a result, making up even more time, 7.5 seconds back to Cameron Dance.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting really close to the halfway point of this race. You can see these two just in absolutely cruising in formation at the moment. Oh, you'd see a lot of curb was taken there by, I think that was Sebastian Flock there. Great work there by Pursuit. They are spread out a bit. You can see, even maybe a little bit of weaving there, trying to pick a line. Cameron really hammering that fuel saving technique. And you can see these two come over there.
Let's see if there's any takers on pit lane this time. No, not going to happen. All on his lonesome is Joshua Van Treek here, running in 9th place. And it's a very big gap back to Alex John and Kyle Booth. That's Zach Mitchell, who's back out onto the racetrack after his very long stop. Lets Alex John go. And there is Kyle Booth. Certainly trying his best to recover from earlier incidents, and if you're in the midfield here, it's definitely been a story of who can avoid the most incidents.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've seen so many incidents so far that we've seen at the moment. You can just see how much that field is really blown apart. Hammer and Broad there. Great little battle between these two, about 0.3 of a second there. Broad a little bit later there, getting on the accelerator, but it actually looks like he's got that really good pace there under brakes, so potentially might see a move there. Oh, talk about moves though.
Oh, hello. Goodness, Dylan Shepard rounding outside of Sebastian Flock at the roller coaster. That's fantastic there. I think Shepard, knowing that he has that 10-second time penalty, is just trying to make up as much time as possible now.
Yeah, and still no takers for that pit lane as well. So it's actually a really strong performance there by that car 43, getting around Sebastian Flock. Sebastian did look a little bit further up the road, but you see just how much, closing that gap all the way up there and then managing to go heavy under the brakes, kept it in nice and tight, giving plenty of room, but being able to make it work around that part of the circuit.
Yeah, good stuff there from both drivers. And this battle between the two Tysons is ongoing. It looks like Broad has managed to get it done on Hanma there coming into roller coaster. Looked like Hanma didn't try to fight that too hard, and why would you at that point of the circuit? At least if you're not Dylan Shepard and Sebastian Flock, sometimes if there's a car going to pass you, it's best to just let them go because it's so hard to maintain side by side through there. Right, this fight still ongoing. Now Shepard has gotten by both Dance and Flock, so if Flock can't stick in Shepard's slipstream, he's going to come under a lot of attack here from Cameron Dance, but looks like still very much in the draft range. Maybe would be able to go for a dive at roller coaster, but I'm not too sure. He's going to get alongside on the way into the corner, but Shepard might have the advantage. Flock, oh, is he going too deep? Is he going to get the grass? Maybe. He manages to maintain side by side. This is allowing Cameron Dance to get right in on this battle, and it looks like Shepard gaining the advantage. Flock had to let him go there coming into Hogpen.
Yeah, we might actually just see how this is playing. You actually just see there Job Stewart just in the back of that shot though, so we'll see what that gap is there. It is down to around 5.5 seconds, so another at least another 2 solid seconds or so has been pulled back. So yeah, if you're Job Stewart, you just really need these 3 up ahead to keep fighting though. Cameron Dance really nowhere to go, unfortunately. If these two fight, he's just got to sit and wait there as well. You can just see almost how much he's held up here at the moment. So with Job Stewart with that clear track up ahead, he can actually go just that little bit deeper on the brakes in a few of these corners.
Yeah, this battling is really benefiting Job Stewart in his dogged pursuit of a recovery to a top 5 position. Stewart's actually down 4 from where he started, so if he's able to catch up to and pass all of these guys, it will be a net profit as Tyson Broad goes for a big spin. Now, what section of the track is that in? That's coming out of Oak Tree, isn't it? Not too sure. Broad's running down in 15th place. It looks like it might have been Hogpen or thereabouts that he made that mistake in. Well, the fight continues here for 4th place. Dylan Shepard, with that brilliant move on Sebastian Flock, is managing to hold on to this. And despite all of these attacks coming from Sebastian Flock, it's not really working out for him at this stage. I think any of these guys would want to come into the pits sooner rather than later. I would say, though, if you aim for a pit stop around the middle of the race, then you'd certainly even out your times. But conversely, I would say that these guys might be wanting to go long. That way they can only have a very short pit stop, about 12 laps from the end, as, oh dear, Shepard has lost both of those positions all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's actually almost closed the gap again there to Job Stewart. You just see there off out of shot, so we'll see what happened. I think it does look like that might have been a mistake by Shepard there running. Oh, you can see a little bit of a lock-up. Not getting on the grass, so very fortunate there. That could have gone, yeah, a lot worse.
Well, Shepard's back on the attack. It was a crucial mistake there for Dylan Shepard. He's now back in the position he was, but with the roles reversed between Sebastian Flock and Cameron Dance, as Stewart is continuing to make up even more time. It's coming down to 4 seconds, this gap.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see another car into the pit lanes there, Tyson Hanmer. You see a couple of the damaged cars that are not out in the circuit either. Unfortunate for them as well, though. Just see Sebastian Flock, though, is about 0.5 of a second there to Cameron Dance, who's just closed it up. So I was going to say Flock potentially been able to kind of work a bit of a gap, but these three are pretty even throughout here at the moment. So Cameron Dance, the meat and the sandwich here at the moment. He's still working all right, though. He does have a a rear, or I was going to say a rear bar, but almost a rear wing to kind of hold on to and try and see if he can make the most of this fuel restriction here at the moment. You can just see how close he gets there under brakes, doing his best there for that fuel save.
Meanwhile, Flock is feeling the pressure and burning up those rear tyres, trying his best to stay ahead. Saw a couple of little squirms there from Sebastian Flock's number 84, and they are really clobbering those curbs, trying to minimise the time they spend in that section of the racetrack. The question is Cameron Dance doing bulk fuel saving, or is he just waiting for a move? I think these guys are well aware that with Matthew Bowler streaking as far ahead as he is, and with Bo Albert and Sam Blacklock effectively locking down the front 2 places, it's going to be difficult for them to catch up, as we're checking out what happened to Bailey Frid here at the first corner. Once again, going a little bit deep and getting into the grass on his left-hand side, losing a little bit more time there. But Frid's still holding on to a top 10 place. He should still be very happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just such a great, such a great paint job there by the Fitstar team. Obviously, they have it throughout all their cars there as well. You can just see how close they bunch up through. It's almost like the fastest part of the circuit into one of the slowest, coming down through that roller coaster, through the hog pen corner complex as they come back onto the straight. No takers though for the pit lane, so it doesn't look like we're going to be splitting that race in half there with the pits, so they're choosing to go that longer game there, Reese.
Well, we're past the halfway point of the race, and this is where we're going to start seeing some decisions being made for the top 11 cars, which still have yet to pit. Dance is very good in this section of the racetrack. He's certainly harassing the back of Sebastian Flock here, and Shepard, after making that mistake, isn't quite as hard on the attack as he was before. On board with Dance and picking up a good slipstream here down this slightly curved straightaway towards the S's. Flock is keeping his car in front, but at what cost? Certainly to his rear tyres. Have a look at how aggressive Cam was over the curbs in that section.
Yeah, you can just see just how heavy that steering input is, how fast that kind of is to kind of catch it. Doesn't really look all that aggressive from outside, but yeah, you can just see that steering input. You can actually see a little bit wide there for that car 43 in behind. Oh, and we've got 2 cars here side by side. Tyson Broad there and Hanma as well.
These guys can't leave each other alone, can they? These Tysons evidently looking out for each other, but that's a problem for Hanma as this battle for 4th is coming up on them. Those drivers have already had to let by the leaders and Matthew Bowler potentially as well, as Dance now is, he's run a bit deep into hog pen. Is he going to go into the pits? No. He's lost time to Sebastian Flock, though, and that gives a chance here to Dylan Shepard. Dance is going to stick to the inside here on the way into the horseshoe. How brave is Dylan Shepard going to be on the brakes? He's on the racing line. There should be a bit more rubber there for him to make use of. But Dance with the inside line. Shepard's gone deep, and off he goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'd have to say, though, he's going to come back on track there, right where Job Stewart is, but won't have that momentum. So these two are now almost going to need to work together potentially. Now turn from a 3-car battle now down to 2. So Shepard's not just not having that great luck here at the moment. Cameron Danso having a really good change of fortune, so he's on a really good podium or potential for a podium finish at this particular point in time. We are expecting though that these cars will have to come into the pit, so in the next 2 or 3 laps they can't stay out there with this fuel tank restriction.
Yeah, absolutely not. While these guys have been fighting to work out their position, I think Cameron Dance is more than happy here to stick behind Sebastian Flock at this stage as we check out Zach Kerr and Kyle Booth. Kerr just taking the position there from Booth at, it seems, turn 1. That's a change for 11th spot there for those guys. Zach Kerr, don't forget, he's the leader of the cars that have pitted, but he's 11 laps into his stint, so we'll be running a little bit light towards the end. There's the move being made. Kyle Booth saw him coming and gave him all the room in the world, realizing that it wasn't really his fight to be having, considering he has yet to come into the pits. And let's check out Dance here. He's gonna, is he gonna go for the move here? No, he's just gonna sit behind Sebastian Flock again. He's keeping that fuel save nice and clean, and I think he's gearing up for actually undercutting Flock in the pit stops. And when I say undercut, I'm not really talking about tyres. I'm talking about just flat out more time, less time spent in the pits, thanks to having to put less fuel into the car. Meanwhile, these two up front, it has been a very uneventful race for the Altus Esports duo. Albert has been the fastest car on track for the last few laps running, so he's certainly having no trouble. Bowler 12 seconds behind, and a couple of lapped cars in the midst of it. There are the two Tysons and the battle for 4th place between Flock and Dance. Job Stewart right there. He's gotten past Dylan Shepard with that mistake that Dylan made, and Stewart is now, it seems, about 3.6 seconds behind, as that's a big issue there for Tyson Broad. That's definitely not the first time he's had an off-track excursion here tonight. Really having trouble with Virginia International Raceway here. Was that Shepard? Yeah, Shepard's gone off the track at the exit of Oak Tree. We'll see what happened to Broad, though. At South Bend, he goes off the circuit and tried to gather it up, but went straight across the track and onto the grass again. Back on track, back on the grass. Good on him to pull it up there on the grass before all of that happened. Now, what happened to Shepard? It looks like he just went a bit too deep on the run into Oak Tree and got caught in the grass. Oh, he just avoided the tyre bundle, though. Good on him for that, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just seems this real technical, narrow layout of Virginia has just been catching out so many drivers over. We are seeing, that is Job Stewart, first in the pits there of around about our top 5 cars. So surely we're going to expecting to see more in the lane. You actually see, I think that might have been some fast repair damage as well. It did have a slight amount of damage on that front bar, so hopefully that might be able to speed himself up. We just saw a car there off in the background. I think that is a lap car there behind Cameron Dance.
Indeed. Those guys just got by that lap car of Tyson Hanmer, and it was very close to disaster for Sebastian Flock as he made his way past Hanmer on the front straight. Almost made contact. So there's still plenty of potential pitfalls to navigate in this race in the last 21 minutes. We'll see what they can do, as Sam Blacklock has taken the fastest car on track title from Bo Albert for the time being. Here's that incident where they lapped. Flock trying to get past Hanmer here, and that was very close, just brushing past each other. And it's difficult to see how that would have turned out any different because of that right bend in the front stretch. So let's see what happened to Hanmer here. This was coming up into NASCAR Bend, I believe, or the left or right hook. What happens here? Does he go a bit beyond the circuit? Not there, but coming into left hook. Oh, wow. Okay. It looked like he just went a bit too deep on the brakes, just locked up, and off the circuit he went. Meanwhile, looks like Bo Albert into the pits and completing his stop. Matthew Bowler is in as well. Looks like a 13.9 second stop from Bo Albert. That's not the quickest stop we've seen so far. In fact, it's one of the slower stops we've seen. It's going to be even slower for Matthew Bowler, though. 14.9 seconds for him. Dylan Shepard jumps into the pits just behind them, as does Bailey Frid. Pulls up just ahead of Shepard. And Shepard's been, looks like a reasonable pit stop going on for him at the moment. But for Cameron Dance, now is the time that he might be thinking, oh, it's probably time for me to come in, as he has a little play in the sand pit through the snake. Comparing pit stop times, the quickest pit stop we've seen so far of the cars on the lead lap, that is Zach Kerr, 9.9 seconds. And I'm not too sure if that's going to be enough for him to get to the end. Alex John, let's see what he can do then. John coming in from just outside the top 10. Just behind him, Kyle Booth comes in. So with 11 laps to go here, those drivers have stretched out their tank as much as they can. Tyson Broad, we're hearing, has now used both fast repairs as he's come into the pits. And our director's math says that Zach Kerr is 3 laps short, so he might have to come into the pits once more. Dance still pressuring the back of Sebastian Flock. Are either of these guys going to jump into the pits? You would expect that they will, as it's 11 laps to go now for Sam Blacklock, who's just jumped into the pits ahead of these guys. So watch for these guys to peel to drivers right out of Hogpen. That's what they're going to do. But Cameron Dance is staying out. The fuel savers worked for him. He's going to go a lap extra.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'd have to say Dance there, bit of a mastermind when it comes to this racecraft. So he's definitely has that feeling like he's got easily another lap and a half there in it. Just seeing these two. Oh, you see that track is just littered with time marks all over the grass. So that's going to leave a lot of work there to Virginia's landscaping department there. We can see off again there for car 43.
No. And much heavier into the barrier.
Yeah, that Bob Jane face is a bit beaten up there from the tyre barriers here at Virginia. So potentially, I think those fast repairs have been all used up for that car 43. Yeah, Joshua Van Treek into the pits there as well. Carnoni. Sorry, just finding out there, 43 still with 2 left. So
now have a look at this. Bo Albert has fallen back into effective second with that pit stop that was a second slower than his teammate Sam Blacklock. Blacklock was in Bo Albert's draft for the whole race, so he saved an awful lot of fuel in the process. So now the roles are reversed at Altus Esports. It shall be interesting to see how this battle works out between them. Will Blacklock be the team player and let Bo Albert go by the end of the race? I think that they can afford to battle. It's not going to be a case of straight up team orders, I would imagine. These guys do like having a good race, and they have enough of a gap over the rest of the field that they can afford to fight a little bit. But as we all know, rule number 1 of sim racing, rule number 1 of racing in general, is don't hit your teammate. It's also rules 2, 3, and 4. So let's see what Albert does here, as Cameron Dance is now in the lane. Zach Kerr, meanwhile, has come in for a splash and dash to make it to the end. And there go the Altus cars back into the lead of the race. I feel like Bo Albert here, is he going to go for the move? Yes, he is. Diving up the inside of his teammate and retakes the lead of the race. So equilibrium has been established at the front of the field. And now we focus on Sebastian Flock to see how much of a gap Cameron Dance has gained, and it looks like an absolute metric ton. Look at that.
yeah, those two were, I think, only about 0.3 of a second separated, but gee, 2.5 seconds. So just absolutely goes to show, and it wasn't really a slow lap by Flock by any means, but it was just how much of that time can be gained in the pits just really goes to show. We're just seeing it is going to be hard there, I think, for Shepard to have that strength with that damage. So it doesn't look too bad there, but potentially maybe a little bit of a bent steering arm, which could be off-settling as well. Maybe even a bit of extra aerodynamic drag as well, Reese.
Yeah, well, I suppose if Shepard stays in this position, he's not going to be worrying too much about losing more places. Remember, he's going to have 10 seconds added to his time at the end of the race, and he currently has, it looks like, 16 seconds ahead of Joshua Van Treek. So as long as Shepard keeps circulating and doesn't have any more offs, then he'll be able to maintain that 8th place. So that's how things work out here. The fight between Shepard and Bailey Frid up ahead is, oh, that was a big slide for Shepard on the exit of Oak Tree. He's going to be left behind here by Bailey Frid, I would imagine. But aside from Bo Albert and Sam Blacklock, this is the only battle left out on the racetrack. As we check out the replay for Shepard here, watch his wheel work coming out of Oak Tree, gets on the throttle. Oh, that was fully on the lock stops there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing to notice as well. You can just see that damage there to the, I was going to say the front bonnet, but the bonnet there.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, it's actually just got through there on Job Stewart. So,
Frid.
Sorry, on Bailey Frid there. Frid in all kinds of twists and turns. So we might have to cut to a replay there and work out exactly how that came about, though. But you just see,
Oh, wow.
Couple of slides. Great work there by Shepard. Picked that gap absolutely perfect. So it does look like Bailey Frid, though, has pulled that gap in there. So he's about 0.3 of a second or so. Could see a nice battle transpire between these two.
Could indeed, but remember, Shepard is walking wounded at the moment with all of that damage that he has, so I wouldn't be surprised if Frid finds his way back past quite quickly. You see that there's already a huge difference in straight line speed between them, but Frid can't do anything about that until they get to the back straight, because they've got this sequence of S's, and it's very difficult to pull a move, especially if you're not fully alongside the car you're trying to pass. But the main difference here is that Frid still has a clean car despite his offs, and Shepard is dealing with some pretty reasonable damage to that car. Let's see how much of a difference there is in straight line speed then down Madison Avenue. Frid is fair ways behind Albert. I don't know, looks like he might be able to get the move done by the time they get to Roller Coaster. Yeah, when you get to the end of the straight, the difference in velocity is definitely apparent, and Frid is going to scythe back by Bo Albert, who's very late on the brakes, though. He's not entirely prepared to give up that position without a fight. But once again, with those dints and bumps in his car's bodywork, it's going to be the drive of Shepard's life if he's able to maintain 7th.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd have to feel for Shepard there, because it's almost trying to fight with one hand tied behind your back. So with that suspension damage there and aerodynamic, he actually did hit, when he slid out, he actually hit the wall perfectly square on. So even though he did hit it at a high speed, it actually managed to bounce off and kind of make a bit of a recovery there. You can actually see hasn't let that pursuit car too much further up the road. So
I think Shepard's aim here is just to stick behind Frid as close as possible. He clearly still has a car that handles well enough to be even with Frid in the slower sectors of the track and through corners like this. It's just when they get to Madison Avenue, that's where the big disadvantage is for the number 43.
even just Bailey just running it ever so slightly wide, so well and truly up on the paint though. Didn't really drop it so much into the grass. See that slow part of the circuit. See how much that speed difference is too. Bailey Frid opening that gap up to about 0.7 of a second or so. You can see Dylan Shepard though still manages to pull it in on the in the braking zone. So yeah, the stability under brakes has not been affected as much as what you would think.
Yeah, it's clearly still a good car under Dylan Shepard, if not for the aero damage that he's suffered. But again, he's in 8th place. He has 15 seconds over Joshua Van Treek, so even with the penalty applied, he's not going to lose out in terms of championship points by the time we get to the end. 10 minutes remains in this race, and we're thinking 5.5 laps to go here for the drivers up the front. Albert and Blacklock flying in formation as they have since the moment the green flag dropped. Or rather, from the moment they got out of turn 1. Remember, there was that very bold move up the inside from Job Stewart to try and get second. Ultimately didn't work out for him. But Stewart has managed to get himself back up into 6th now with some very solid driving through the midfield. And unfortunately for Job, it doesn't look like this last 10 minutes is going to be that profitable for him. He's got 11 seconds to make up to his teammate Sebastian Flock if he wants to get a top 5 place. So he's been driving on his own for the majority of this race, still putting in some pretty good times. The fastest lap, though, both on the last lap and overall, still belongs to Sam Blacklock in 2nd.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see a bit of a mixed run there for Pursuit Sim Racing, but and Job Stewart definitely thinking what could have been. So has recovered, though, to around that 6th position. Hopefully not hurting his championship campaign too far all the way through. Very lonely drive, though, all the way in that 6th place. So he's pretty much a car. I think the next car up ahead's about 10 seconds and the one behind about 5. So just really got to maintain that focus and just chip away those laps there. Alex John, we haven't seen too much of their big improvement, though, into 11th position from 15th. I think he might have been caught up in some of those really early incidents that we saw earlier on.
Yeah, well, looking at the way John's been driving, he's a very consistent driver, and he's certainly no slouch in these Porsches. In the other Porsche series we broadcast on SimSpeed TV, the Flat Sixes, part of the Logitech GV8 Scops supports, he took one of the race wins at the Red Bull Ring in a reverse grid race. So John can certainly hold his own against some of the better drivers in the Porsche 911, and looking at the times that he's been setting, oh, that's actually a 1 minute 53 that he just set. He had an off on that last lap. That's, I think that's partially why we went back to take a look at him. It's a shame. I was about to mention how he was 0.5 faster per lap than Benjamin Johnson up ahead, but looks to me like Alex John is not going to be able to make that up. Here's what actually happened to him, and it was in the first sector, very wide at NASCAR Bend and going for a trip through the grass.
Yeah, absolutely. So bit of a bummer there for Alex John, but you'd have to say, though, just being outside that top 10, not all that bad in the grand scheme of things. Can definitely maybe bank on that experience, but yeah, also kind of a bit, kind of as we were saying before about Job Stewart, in a bit of a no man's land. Zach Mitchell in that 15th.
Ooh, okay, he's done a Garriott, but he's managed to get straight on the brakes and slow right down, make his way back onto the racetrack safely. Mitchell just getting past there by the fight for 7th that's continuing here between Bailey Frid and Dylan Shepard. I'm impressed that Shep has been able to keep his front bumper in close proximity to Bailey Frid's rear.
Yeah, there has been an excellent drive there by Shepard, keeping it all together, but you see that lap traffic not being too much of an issue coming around. You'd almost think that Dylan Shepard potentially, if he can just be close enough in one of the braking zones, they do kind of seem to be separated a bit on the straights. Oh, you can see, we just saw from Cameron Dance just how heavy they have to be with that steering input. You can see almost like a 4-wheel slide there from the Porsche there of Dylan Shepard, and you can see just how much tighter it keeps it in there as well in Bailey Fruit, and then you can just see Bailey just cruising away there as they come through that back straight there. They're going to come all the way into the roller coaster complex. down the hill.
After all of this, Bailey Frid and Dylan Shepard are in the same positions they started in, and the only other cars that are in the same position they started are the top two of Bo Albert and Sam Blacklock. So I think in terms of race pace, Dylan Shepard certainly, if his car was undamaged, would have the measure of Bailey Frid. But it's been a very patchy race for both of these guys. Frid has had plenty of excursions off the racetrack. Dylan Shepard with twice over going wide at Oak Tree, and the second time getting this damage. It's certainly a race of what might have been for many drivers in the field. I'll just do a brief review here of positions gained and lost. As I mentioned, these guys plus the top two, they remain in the same spots they started in. Matthew Bowler is up 2 places here and holding on to third very nicely. Cameron Dance gaining 2 places with that excellent fuel-saving run. Sebastian Flock, unfortunately, down 1 position here in 5th place. Job Stewart recovering gradually, but in 6th place as Ben Johnson comes in for a second stop. Looks like a splash and dash for him to make his way to the end. Speaking of Johnson, he's also gained 1 place. Joshua Van Treek, the biggest gainer in the field, along with Alex John. Those guys are both up 5 places now, with Johnson coming in for that second stop. And Zach Kerr down 2, with Kyle Booth also down 2. Tyson Hanmer and Zach Mitchell up 3, and it'll be nice for Zach Mitchell to see that. Unfortunately, he did have that very long pit stop very early on in the race, which put him well out of contention and a lap down, but the driver of the number 54 will certainly be happy that he's gained 3 spots through big trouble for many of the other drivers, including Nicholas Gariach, who is still running, but the AM Championship leader is a lap down and 4 places down from where he started. But Van Treek, he'll be very happy with this one. 9th place as things stand.
Yeah,
that's a problem for Blacklock. He's picked up some damage somewhere.
Yeah, and doesn't seem to be too far away though. Has only lost about 3 seconds or so to his teammate there of Bo Albert. So looks like he's had some kind of excursion off track and has bounced his way back on. But that does kind of dash his chance. So for a win, you just see in the replay here.
Big oversteer moment out of the snake, and the tyre barrier was there to collect him. That's a shame. It's not a completely flawless race for the Altus duo then, but Blacklock's got more than enough of a gap that he can afford to just keep circulating here in the final 2 minutes. He holds on to a gap of 19.5 seconds over Matthew Bowler. Oh, something's happened to Cameron Dance as well. Looks like Sebastian Flock has gotten back past him, as it is 2 laps to go for Bo Albert out in the lead. Bit of a higher gap to Sam Blacklock than the previous lap, and I'm sure he'll understand why. So I'm going back to check to see what happened to Cameron Dance here. It happened at Oak Tree. Looks to me, as we're going to check out the Virtual Racing School replay, did he do the same thing that Dylan Shepard did? Oh, not quite. Took a bit too much curb on the way in. Managed to pull it up before the tyre barrier, but Sebastian Flock was right there to take advantage and slip on by.
Yeah, so bit unfortunate for Cam Dance. Only 1 position, thankfully, lost, but probably a bit more of a shame, all that effort to lose it, in those dying moments. So looking at Dylan Shepard though, on the back there of Bailey Frid, Bailey has not managed to lose him, so it's going to go right down to the wire between these two.
Oh, it's a further problem for Benjamin Johnson, running wide at Oak Tree with 43 seconds to go in this race. He's not going to lose any positions though. Kyle Booth's still a long way behind him, 12 seconds in fact, but Shepard will still be able to try and fight here for a 7th place on the road. It will become 8th if he ends up completing the move, thanks to the 10-second penalty assigned by race control for the incident that happened between these very 2 drivers back on lap 5 of this race. Shepard's still being very aggressive over the curbs here. Well, 10 seconds to go in the race, and the white flag flies for Bo Albert. He crosses the line with 4 seconds left on the timer, so it is going to work out to be a 34-lap race. And that means Dylan Shepard will now know that it's going to be all or nothing here on the final lap. Trying to stick in the slipstream of Bailey Frid, not quite. He's sort of not really sitting behind Frid on the straight, is he?
Yeah, you can see. You'd almost have to say there is Shepard there trying to line up a bit of a last late lunge. We've seen him pull some pretty hard moves there so far, though, but just does not have the pace. Surely, if he did not have that damage, might have been a bit of a different story, though. He's managed to keep on the back, though, Barney waving that white flag, so they'll know he's only got one more chance at this. See how much tighter he keeps it than Bailey Frid. You see really two different lines between these two coming through the what was it, the left hook NASCAR bend. Then they are going to go through that snake section you just see. It's pretty surprising too. We did see Cam Dance in that other car as well on Oak Tree. Just the rear seems to be breaking away. So a lot of these drivers really asking a lot from the tyres though. But gee, you'd have to say Bell Albert. Then another dominant display. Only a few more corners to go. Well, no more corners to go. Just that start-finish line and that checkered flag. You see Sam Blacklock off in the distance.
And Bo Albert takes victory at Virginia International Raceway. It's a 1-2 for Altus Esports. Once again, a great result for the team. Coming across the line there was Benjamin Johnson, and Matthew Bowler will be ecstatic with yet another podium in this series, weaving across the straight to celebrate. Fantastic stuff there for Matthew and for Pursuit Sim Racing. It's going to be a 3-4 for them, with Sebastian Flock coming across the line in fourth, as Frid continuing to try to defend doggedly from Bo Albert. There's going to be no more chances at moves here, I think, though, coming into Hogpen. Very difficult to put a move up the inside into here unless you're already alongside on the way in. And there we go. Frid and Shepard will ultimately cross the line 7th and 8th. Dylan Shepard will remain 8th, even with that 10-second time penalty assigned to him. They cross the line. So, Bo Albert, I mean, what more can you say? It was about as uneventful a race as you would expect for the championship leader, but if you're in a position like the one he's in, an uneventful race is the best kind of race. He didn't have to suffer from any dramas, he didn't make any mistakes, and he will come home with victory by 4.5 seconds over his teammate. Bowler completing the podium. It's Flock and Dance who round out the top 5. Job Stewart recovers to finish 6th after a very eventful first 2 laps. Bailey Frid in 7th, and Dylan Shepard will ultimately still take the Pro-Am win there despite that penalty. Van Treek and Alex John will round out the top 10, completing the Pro-Am podium.
Absolutely. There's Zach Kerr there in 11th place, and then the first car of the lap down cars there, Ben Johnson, Kyle Booth, Tyson Hamner, Zach Mitchell, Nicholas Garrett there. We did see that massive crash. And then it being our last car, finishing there, Tyson Broad, Isaac Edwards, Javon Wood, and Nathan Anderson there, not finishing the race there. So a lot of attrition here in this mini 60 minutes, though. They're all pushing each other along there. Maybe Bo Albert's ran out of fuel.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of a gesture here by the guys. Just a nice old centipede of cars making their way down the back stretch at VIR. The victory celebrations will begin very shortly. Sam Blacklock has decided he wants no part of that. He's just already pulled off the racetrack and probably a little bit unhappy with himself for the mistake that he made in those dying laps. I think it was obvious that Bo Albert was the one with the superior pace, but still Blacklock would have liked a nice clean race to finish in 2nd. Well, bringing it into the lane are most of the cars, but Bo Albert is going to stay out there on the start-finish stretch and probably give us some very sweet taste in victory donuts. We already see that for Kyle Booth. But Matthew Bowler joins him out there, and Dylan Shepard with the Pro-Am class win will certainly be happy with that. So all of our class winners there, plus third place in the pros, giving the spectators a nice little show of smoke. And now we can think towards the next round of the championship. Round 8 is going to be at Silverstone, and we'll be looking to certainly get some good racing done here at the Grand Prix circuit in Northamptonshire. I'm looking forward to that one, Nick. It's certainly going to be a very different race to the one at VIR. This is a much smoother circuit, flatter, with much more wider and usable curbs.
Yeah, absolutely, and a lot wider track as well there. So we'll see a lot more of those, the drag racing into those corners. It's definitely not as technical as Virginia, but it will, I think, Altus and in particular Bell, again, will be just such a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, we can expect that. Well, we go to our interviews, and the first driver we're going to talk to is obviously Bo Albert in car 06. P1 once again, Bo, and it was pretty much a flawless race from up here in the comms box. How did it feel for you?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Obviously, I love this track, so very, very happy to get a good result here. But honestly, me and Sam are just a little bit perplexed about what just happened. We haven't really changed too much in setup. We haven't, done crazy amounts of practice, but the Altus car tonight was just on absolute rails. So, honestly, couldn't have gone much better. It was great to run, so close with him the entire race. Obviously, we had a bit of an undercut situation with the fuel loads, with him being in the slipstream for the first stint. But for us, honestly, could not have gone much better.
Indeed, and with that 1-2 finish, despite the mistake from Blacklock towards the end, you guys were far enough ahead of everyone else that it didn't really matter. It's a fantastic result for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Sam missed a couple of rounds, so he's lacking a little bit of experience in the car. It is a new thing for him. So he's getting up to speed in that, and he's getting very, very quick. He's making less mistakes now. Obviously, very easy on old tyres to make a mistake at the end, so absolutely no stress there. With what happened at the end, and like you say, thankfully we did have the margin. But for us in the team's championship, Sam missing a few races meant we lost quite a lot of points. But we are starting to chip away back at that now, so hopefully this is a sign of things to come.
Yep, you will certainly be hoping that. Well, we go to Silverstone next round. What are your thoughts on that place? How do you think you're going to go?
Terribly. I never run well at Silverstone. I like the sort of bumpy, sort of aggressive nature tracks where you have to attack the curbs, all that stuff. So this smooth, precision Grand Prix stuff just doesn't really work for me. So I'm expecting next one to be a bit of a rough one, especially I'm sure Job will come back firing next fortnight as well. Hopefully we see Cooper and Jordan as well get a bit more cars fighting up towards the front of the field. But I think it's going to be a rough one, but either way, we push on and see what we can make of it.
Well, who do you have to thank for your victory before we let you go, Bo?
Big shout out to the guys at Logitech G and Virtual Racing School for all their support of the team, and Cube Controls, Own 3D, and Race Tech New Zealand as well. And a big shout out as well to Sam for all the communication and work he put in ahead of this week. Couldn't have done it without him.
Well, that's Bo Albert, race victor tonight here at Virginia in the first Enduro of the season. Second place on the road was his teammate Sam Blacklock, a very strong 1-2 for Altus Esports. Nick's going to have a chat to him about that.
Yeah, I was just about to tell you as well there, congratulations, Sam, on that second place, but we're just trying to work out what had happened there. I think that was almost the last or the second last lap.
Yeah, I managed to run out of talent right at the end there. I kept it together for most of the race distance, trying to hunt down Bo and stay with him, apply some pressure. But yeah, just those last few laps, I wasn't even really pushing, just a bit of a unforced error, and got a bit loose and rubbed the tyre wall.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen quite a lot of, almost the majority of the field having off, so it was actually... it caught us a bit by surprise there, Bo, managing to keep it on the track and taking the win. We were actually hoping it was going to boil up to maybe a bit of a battle between you two, but yeah, it was definitely great to see the two Altus cars though with another 1-2.
Yeah, obviously, Bo's driving really well, especially in this car at the moment. So, you know, it's just been about trying to keep up with him and to stay on the back of him for the whole race, and even jump into the lead there for a little bit. Yeah, it's probably pretty good for my confidence, but yeah, I've still got a lot of work to do, I think, to match Bo on a qualifying setup for sure. But yeah, it's overall, I guess, a pretty positive night for myself and the rest of the team. And yeah, I look forward to jumping back in this car again.
Yeah, absolutely. We will catch you at in Silverstone in the next couple of weeks. So any people and sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, just a big shout out to Logitech G, Altus Esports for the awesome work this week. Just you know, Bo did most of the work on the car, and I just got in and drove it, and yeah, it was awesome. And yeah, just a big thanks to Logitech G, VRS, Own 3D, and a few of the other guys we were in a chat with during that race. It was good fun. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, yeah, congratulations on that podium again, Sam. And yeah, we will look forward to it in the next couple of weeks, and I'll put it back to Reese.
Indeed, I am with Matthew Bowler at the moment, the driver who took third place once again here, Matthew. Looks like the mid-season is being very kind to you.
Yeah, I mean, super stoked to be back on the podium. We've had a pretty good start to the season, so hopefully we can keep it going into the next phase.
How were the first couple of laps? Because certainly we saw some very bold moves by certain drivers at the front of the field. It must have been difficult to try and negotiate that, especially on cold tyres.
Yeah, well, qualifying didn't quite go to plan. I think my Delta was saying I could do around a mid to high 46, and I just couldn't get that out of the car. I think with the track temp, it was rising quite quickly, and my setup started to understeer quite a bit. Hence why I reckon I was so far off the Altus guys. They just had awesome pace. But yeah, the first few laps, just tried to get back into third and try and keep up with the boys up front. But yeah, it was almost impossible to do that. So they were in their own world. But yeah, the main thing was to hold on to third, and we were able to do that. So yeah, some bold moves from a few of the guys. But yeah, glad to stick it out and get P3.
Well, Pursuit Sim Racing has had a pretty good hold on this championship, at least at the start of the season, but with Sam Blacklock turning up regularly, it looks like Altus is starting to really bring the fight to you guys. So how are you trying to prepare for those fights?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, we didn't really expect Sam to be racing regularly, but yeah, now that he's turned up, I think we need to really step up and put more effort into each event. So yeah, to get a 3-4 tonight just shows that we're still up there and we can still fight the championship. Obviously, the Drivers' Championship might be a stretch, but I'm pretty sure I'm sitting in a pretty good position so far. But yeah, they're pretty quick, so we just got to try and have a few clean races, because if they mess up and crash out of a race, it gives us a chance to really just get some points over them. So yeah, staying clean for the whole season is probably the main goal. Just playing for the long term rather than the short term.
Well, that's certainly what you guys are doing, and it's working out very nicely for you as things stand. Before we let you go, Matthew, anyone you'd like to thank for your podium?
Yeah, obviously I'd just like to thank the guys at Pursuit Sim Racing. The continuous support's been great, and obviously Seb for cracking a P4 once again. So yeah, we've had a pretty good season so far, so we hope to keep that going. Also like to thank all the guys in the Discord. I think we got a top 5 lockout, so Bo, Sam, Cam, myself and Seb, we all had pretty good races tonight. And then obviously you guys at SimSpeed putting on a cracker stream every single time. And then obviously the guys, Dan, Tom, everyone at AOG for hosting this league. It's definitely my favourite, so yeah, look forward to the next race.
As do we. That's Matthew Bowler there, third on the road and in the pro class. Next up, we've got our Pro-Am winner here, Dylan Shepard. Quite an eventful race, and Nick's going to have a chat to him about that.
Yeah, congratulations, Dylan, on the result. I think the most amount of airtime on the stream, it came from I think a penalty earlier on into like some really great battles there. I think for that third place as well as finishing in. You did finish in the fence at some stage as well, but did manage to, I think, get it over the line there for around about an 8th place. Talk us through it.
Yeah, no, thanks guys. Yeah, it was pretty quick up the front, and then obviously copped that 10-second penalty for an unfortunate hit. So, I mean, it was a bit hard to try and race against them boys knowing that I was going to cop that. And then, yeah, just a few silly little mistakes that I still need to fix up. It cost me a bit of time, but in the end, it was just damage limitation. I had a damaged car with not much straight line, so I was just about sitting behind old mate and getting the draft to try and keep the gap above 10 seconds to claim the win. So that was just the main goal in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. We could see just you were just so well under brakes there against, I think it was Bailey Frid from Pursuit Sim Racing, and just really holding those tighter lines. But unfortunately, yeah, with that damage, it just made it a bit difficult there, struggling for that straight line speed.
Yeah, that's it. But even like looking in hindsight, even if I'd finished up the front with them guys, I wasn't going to finish in there in the points. So in the end, it didn't really hurt us any more than it would have. But yeah, still need to fix up a bit of the long run driving. But pace is there, and just got to keep pushing on.
Yeah. So Dylan, we'll have to say we've got Silverstone coming up. Is that a track that you found yourself to be strong with there in the past?
I mean, I've only just rejoined in the last few months. I don't even think I was running around the new Silverstone layout back when they released it. So still a bit to learn there, but I'll put a bit of time into it and see where we end up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations again on the result. Yeah, it is a pretty long championship, so all these points really do tend to add up there. And any people and sponsors you'd like to thank?
No, I'm all good. I'd like to just thank the boys running the series. They're running a good series, and just all the support from the Lobs Esport Falcon crew. So yeah, thanks boys.
Absolutely. Well, that is Dylan Shepard, and I'll put it back there to Reese.
Yeah, and I'm currently with the AM class winner, Kyle Booth. It was a pretty eventful one here. Kyle, you did come home with the win, and unfortunately for you and Nicholas Gary, it's not quite the team result that you guys were expecting, but still, you managed to make it to the end, which is the main thing.
Yeah, guys, like, wow, what a long race. My hip was just killing me. Had a little off at the start there, just outbroke myself and, lost a few positions. So, and then up around the oak tree, it just sort of just knocked it into the wall there and got a little bit of damage, but it wasn't too bad. I got through to the pit stop, and it was only like, I don't know, half a second down over my normal pace, so wasn't pushing too hard, and we just knew we had to finish just to get points. Like, just stay on the track is the main game.
Yeah, which is a bit hard to do at a track like VIR. It's certainly a track that sorts out driving talent and ability to keep it on the track. It seemed, especially in the midfield, it was just a case of who could keep it on the black stuff.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Nick and I had a chat about it, and I was like, oh, we could use a low downforce setup, or could you be a little more confident with more downforce and last the whole race? We're staying on the track, so we sort of leaned towards that direction a little bit.
Well, ultimately worked out for you, and certainly in the teams championship, it looks like Gary H. Booth Motorsport is the team to beat. So you guys can definitely carry that momentum forward to Silverstone next round.
Yeah. Just keep focusing on getting up the front as much as we can, just finishing the races, knocking out the points, and Silverstone is not really a strong point, I would say. I'm going to have to put in some effort to see where I can find some time there. Haven't really raced the Porsche there, so we'll have a hard slug at it and see how it turns out.
Well, before we let you go, Kyle, anyone you'd like to thank for your AM class victory?
ZTech Engineering, Marley Constructions, Inox Lubricants, My Real Estate Queensland, and Repco.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Kyle Booth, AM class winner here tonight. That ends our driver interviews for the night, but before we go, we're going to have a quick chat to series organizer Daniel Yeaman. Dan, first enduro round of the season, turned out to be quite an interesting race. What are your thoughts on on all the happenings tonight?
I mean, yeah, it's a good way to put it. Certainly 19 guys able to make it tonight, which sort of decent numbers for where we're at the moment. I mean, in saying that, obviously just sort of talking about where we're at the moment, we've got over 50 drivers signed up. So unfortunately, the activity isn't quite there, I'd probably say, but gotten some responses to some of the guys, and really, we are trying to race here on a weeknight, of course, and plenty of guys that we've got signed up who got jobs, and yeah, so totally understand and appreciate the guys who are able to sort of let us know. It was, having to balance, work-life balance and such, and that means, can't always be available on a Tuesday, so fair enough to all them. But yeah, coming back to tonight in that case, certainly, while we had, decent numbers for us at the moment tonight, and also sort of, spread out a bit, as it so happened, but happy to see some pretty decent racing there amongst a couple of the guys. A bit unfortunate we didn't quite see Sam, unfortunately, unable to sort of challenge right at the end, but that's how it goes sometimes. Credit to the guys up front and to our podium, of course. A little bit, Dylan had it was a little bit rough there during the race to get penalised, but if he wants to talk to us about it, we can certainly have a chat about that one afterwards. But the general gist being that Fred was still alongside him at the apex, so he had the right to at least a car's width on the outside of the track there. And so that's why we gave the penalty to Shepard in that one. But otherwise, it's a difficult track to do an enduro at, I acknowledge. Certainly perhaps maybe a bit of a gamble from us in that respect. But I think good to see most of the guys are able to stick it out and commit to the end. Only a couple of retirements during that one there.
Well, from Nick talking to Dylan Shepard, it seems like he took the penalty on the chin and accepted it. So I don't think there's going to be much of a problem there, Dan. But certainly we've got a few great rounds coming up here. We go to Silverstone on the 10th of May, and then we go to Spa, and they're going to both be sprint rounds. And round 10 is going to be Snetterton, the 300 layout for a super sprint. So it'll be interesting to see how the racing works out, not only at those magnificent Grand Prix circuits, but also at Snetterton, which is one of the premier circuits on the national circuit in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, we tried to mix it up a little bit with what's coming up on the calendar, and looking at the calendar on the broadcast, so you actually can probably spot a bit of a theme in terms of where we're going in the virtual world. We started off with this first 7 rounds, all circuits from across America. Try to pick out a mix of circuits that have got some international level reputation. In this case, perhaps Barber and Mosport in Mid-Ohio, a bit more of a national level kind of venue. But yeah, come to Europe, we've got again another mix though of Grand Prix level and national level circuits, especially in the form of, as you said, Snetterton there, but also the Alton Park and Donington visits we'll be making in the calendar there. So trying to see a theme it around like we're visiting as a Porsche Cup series that's sort of focused in a region of the world, before we move on to the next segment, as we will do come round 16 at the end of August, when we begin our Asia Pacific leg to round out the season later on.
Well, that's certainly going to be good. We're going to be looking forward to that. But I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how this championship ends up going as we approach the middle phase of the season. It's quite a long championship, Dan, which can certainly test some drivers' commitments to it. But certainly at the top of the field, we're seeing drivers turning up every single round and giving it their all. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going back to the point about we've got guys who they've got jobs, they've got a life that they have to live, and certainly sim racing isn't a full-time part of that for just about everyone here. So totally understand that we can't count on everyone who's able to sign up to then race every single round. But big thanks to everyone who does keep coming and racing, whether they're up the front regularly, whether it's our guys in the Pro-Am and Am classes fighting over the mid-pack positions. They help make the series what it is, and so I can't thank them enough for continuing to commit to us. And basically, hopefully we just keep doing what we can do to deliver a solid product in terms of the race preparation, and then leave it up to the guys out on track to give us the good racing that we can then present to you guys here at SimSpeed and allow that to share that with the world. It's certainly a long season. It's the first time we've done a big one since I've taken charge at the beginning of 2021. So fingers crossed people are still sort of like what we're doing here. And it can be a good platform for next year when we hopefully keep racing. For the rest of this year, while I did say initially we were going to say cap sign-offs, I'm contemplating at this stage I'm going to actually, I'll discuss this with the other admin guys, but I'm thinking we might just sort of say that registrations for the series are going to stay open for the foreseeable future. Try and encourage drivers to come along and
and try and build the numbers up a little bit higher. Certainly 19 drivers on track isn't unhealthy, but given we've got plenty more drivers signed up, like to see 25 to 30 on track if we can. But yeah, if drivers can make that possible, that'd be fantastic. And yeah, just got to get people signed up and through the door, I think, to make that happen, perhaps.
Well, if you're interested in racing in this series, keep an eye on the Aussie Online Gaming Discord and stay tuned for whether or not the admin team elect to reopen those sign-ups. That was Daniel Yeaman, series organizer, and that is going to bring to an end proceedings for tonight, Nick. Pretty good race here at Virginia International Raceway. I think for the first enduro of the season, it worked out pretty much as we expected. Plenty of drivers having offs, having incidents, but the cream rose to the top once again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was definitely one of those rounds where you really have to keep that focus, and 60 minutes just really starts to push. You could some of the feedback from a few of the drivers about getting pretty sore being in the rig for 60 minutes straight, and then Sam also talking about, even though he almost rolled off the throttle there, having that slight off as well. So yeah, definitely always brings a challenge here at Virginia.
Well, don't forget, the next round is going to be at Silverstone in 2 weeks' time on the Tuesday of May the 10th. So make sure that you tune in to SimSpeed TV then for more AOG Porsche Cup action. Thanks very much to series supporter Sam Blacklock Media. Thank you very much to Sam Blacklock for your support of this series, and thanks to the crew once again at Aussie Online Gaming for setting this series up and making everything happen behind the scenes. I'm Reese Gardner. It was Nick Scarriev alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy on production, making everything happen behind the scenes and bringing you those lovely pictures that you've seen for the last 2 hours. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, bye for now, but not forever. We'll see you at Silverstone.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.